My 45F daughter, 15F, suffers from severe social anxiety. It is incredibly crippling and has prevented her from many extracurriculars and even her education over the years. I left my job 5 years ago to start homeschooling her and have since put her in therapy. The therapist and I have been working on getting her into school more and more for the past year and a half. This is all to say, I am not trying to shame my daughter for her social anxiety at all. It is a debilitating thing to live with and I can see that firsthand. Last month the therapist recommended getting a service dog for my daughter in order to be able to help her navigate public settings better. Despite thinking this was a huge responsibility, I did see the excitement on my daughter's face. She really wanted a dog and seemed determined to continue her progress with the help of an animal. I was initially on board with this and started the necessary research required. However, a few weeks ago I left my daughter with my sister-in-law for a few days because my mother was sick and I needed to visit her a few hours away and my husband was on a work trip. The plan was for my Sil to continue her homeschooling for as many hours as she could manage, but instead I got a call from her 2 days in demanding I take my daughter back home. I came to find out that my sister-in-law had to leave the house for a few hours and asked my daughter take care of her senior dog. This dog is very old and small. She was adopted just over a year ago, so she's still a bit weary of people. My daughter, in an attempt to recreate some stupid online video, took this senior dog to the roof of the house and left her there. The poor thing was so scared she shit herself on the roof, shaking, while my daughter filmed. Of course this didn't go to plan and the dog ended up falling off the roof and into the swimming pool out of sheer luck. However, due to her age and size the dog ended up breaking a few ribs in her paw. When I heard this I was absolutely livid. I confronted my daughter immediately and she admitted to wanting to recreate a video she saw online. She then proceeded to use a defense that went along the lines of that dog is old. If it were younger then nothing would have happened. She also mentioned how she didn't really think what she did was that bad because it's an unloved shelter dog with no real value like a service dog or newborn puppy. I was very upset to hear these words coming out of my daughter's mouth. I have no idea where she learned this from considering neither me or my husband share these beliefs. I instantly told my daughter that she would not be getting a service dog. I also told her that she would have to pay her aunt's vet bill no matter what it took. Because the bill is in the thousands, she will have to find a way to make that money. My daughter got upset and said I was being unfair because she can't get a job due to her social anxiety, but I told her she should have thought about that before doing what she did. My daughter has since then been attempting to search for a part-time job that requires minimal face-to-face interaction. Despite me and my husband helping her, she was only able to find a waitress job. I asked my sister-in-law if she was okay with my daughter working the vet bill off instead, but she refused, saying she really had no interest in having my daughter anywhere near her house or dog again, and I honestly thought that was fair enough, so I told my daughter she had to find a way to stick with this because that vet bill was her responsibility only. My husband told me I might be an off for suggesting our daughter pay off the entire bill and that we should probably just restrict her pocket money until the bill is paid off. I think that's not a good enough punishment because her pocket money isn't earned, it's what me and my husband give her for free time at the start of the week. Also, this bill is entirely her fault and therefore her responsibility. It's unfortunate that the only jobs available are in customer service, but what else can we do? My daughter's therapist also reached out saying she thinks it was wrong of me to completely take the service dog idea off the table considering it is a medical necessity, as well as pointing out that suddenly forcing my daughter into an unfamiliar job may be a bit too daunting. Are my husband and my daughter's therapist right? Am I being too harsh on my daughter? Ada? Commenter: honestly, your daughter kind of sounds like she has sociopathic tendencies. I guess you could have social anxiety and be a sociopath, but I've seen sociopathic tendencies being thrown out quite a bit in the comments, and honestly this is the first outlandish thing she has ever done. She does like recreating funny videos she sees, though she's never had the courage to post them, and usually she'll ask either of us before she does it. However, the comments have also told me that it is time for a psychiatrist, which I think I agree with. Commenter: / I think at this point a new therapist is indicated. Unless the therapist is unaware of the extreme severity of this incident, they are behaving in an unethical way. On top of that, clearly your daughter's mental health issues are poorly managed. This has been mentioned a lot in other comments. I do think that in hindsight there definitely could have been an issue of miscommunication at the hands of my daughter. I've decided to switch therapists anyway purely because this push for a service dog seems a bit unhanded considering the situation, and we need a therapist who can handle my daughter better. Commenter: by miscommunication I am suddenly thinking your daughter lied to her therapist regarding the severity of what she did. Did you speak personally to the therapist regarding what she did to the dog? Because maybe the therapist was misinformed regarding what happened. I think this may be the case, yes. Other comments have mentioned this, so I have decided to take this to another therapist who isn't working so closely with us and explain the story myself. She will also be working with a psychiatrist soon. Commenter: not an expert, but I've generally found that people with social anxiety tend to be more empathetic, especially towards animals, which is why I find this girl's behavior so bizarre. Downvoted: honestly, she's usually very nice to this dog when she comes over the visit, which is why my aunt had no issue leaving her with him. I can honestly only say that I think this is a silly video that got out of hand and she's attempting to displace the responsibility to get out of having a job. I hope this isn't a reaction out of lack of empathy but rather just lack of responsibility. Commenter, definitely bigger issues than social anxiety. And I'm shaking my head at how that issue was handled. Anxiety gets worse with avoidance. Meds and therapy should have been utilized before homeschooling. Once you basically avoid all socialization, it only gets harder and harder to get back to it. It also sounds like the therapist mentioned the service dog to the daughter first. The parents should have been consulted first since they need to be okay with a living creature they are responsible for joining their family. Oop, by the age of 9 my daughter had social anxiety so bad the school consistently called us in to pick her up because she had a panic attack. Once she even peed herself in public. She was quite young though. Homeschooling was started at the suggestion of the school guidance counselor, her therapist and the school principal. And yes, the therapist did mention the service dog to my daughter first. I will be having a conversation about this because I don't think it's right to base therapy around the possibility of adding a dog into the M9, especially now. It is not my decision to tell the police and I won't stand in the way of my SIL if she chooses to do so. As for the payment, my husband has already suggested just paying the money back. If the payments are slow then yes I will pay my SIL back and then direct my daughter's paychecks elsewhere. However, I do think this is ultimately a decision my SIL should make on how the money should be handled and so far she hasn't made any objections to my daughter paying it directly to her. As for the psychiatric evaluation, I already agree that this might be needed after this situation. Commenter, a psychiatric evaluation might be needed? My not the comment is slowly changing after reading with your comments. Oop, I'm absolutely heartbroken reading these comments yes, but I'm not attempting to diminish the situation. Something absolutely needs to be done yes. When I say the word might I am not implying that nothing should be done about this, I am instead wondering if psychiatric evaluation is a far enough or if she should be put in a facility straight away where they'll evaluate her and she'll live for some time. Commenter, she's been homeschooled for 5 years due to mental health, but she hasn't seen a psychiatrist? Are you serious? Oop, she's been to a range of psychologists all of whom have come to the same conclusion of severe anxiety. No one has referred us to a psychiatrist. We have just been told to use therapy treatment and anxiety medication. Editors note this has caused some confusion, but general practitioners or family doctors can prescribe anxiety medication in some places, including the US. Commenter, no, you utter idiot. Why the fuck are you punishing your SIL by making her wait potentially years to be paid back the thousands? If I were your SIL and considering going to the police, the fact that you haven't paid me means I'm running to the police. Oop, I'm not attempting to punish my sister-in-law at all. This is something I have discussed with her and she says she would like the money in hand from my daughter with an apology with every single paycheck. I have not asked my SIL to forgive my daughter and would never do so. Commenter, okay, so this is genuinely horrifying, and I feel like you aren't horrified enough. / oop, aren't horrified enough? Are you kidding? I didn't come to Reddit to slander my daughter. I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the ways I think she's a horrible human for what she's done just so people think I'm horrified enough. Yes, I am terrified that this is something she cannot come back from because of her lack of remorse. I am angry, upset and disappointed. All my other comments have indicated to agreeing with her having bigger problems than just social anxiety. Yes, more steps for her mental well-being will be taken, not just the punishment. I'm just trying my best given the situation. Commenter, do you think she has just been manipulating you and maybe her anxiety is really just no compassion or empathy and she just doesn't want to deal with the real world because you coddle her so much? Oop, what a diagnosis to make, thank you. While this is worrying, I'm not ready to dismiss the last 6 years of work we have all put into her well-being. What I am going to do is take her to a psychiatrist who will be the judge of this because, like everyone here, I suspect this goes deeper than just anxiety. As for the coddling, which is a comment I've seen a lot on here, I'd like to see you raise a child with severe social anxiety. We took her to multiple psychologists, all of whom suggested therapy and anxiety medication. That's it. Homeschooling was done at the recommendation of the school guidance counselor, principal and therapists who said it may be for the best for now. In what way have I shown that I don't discipline my daughter? That I coddle her? Has anything in these comments been an attempt for me to defend her action? Having never raised a child with severe mental illness, I'm navigating this the best I can, but yes, thank you for your judgment that I coddle her. Thank you for being there for the past 15 years of her life so you know everything about how I've been trying to raise her. Oop, what makes you think we aren't trying to put her into uncomfortable situations? My original post says we're working into getting her into school. The plan was to have her in college full time. I also didn't raise her to be an animal abuser. Also, I'm getting a bit tired of people comparing mental health issues. That will never be okay. I'm glad that worked for you. My daughter was practically born with severe social anxiety. By the age of 8 she was peeing herself at school almost every day. She was crying, vomiting. We were getting phoned in by teachers almost every day. I'm sorry for what you experienced, but it's nowhere near the same for a little girl. Was I supposed to get her a job at the age of 10? We tried forcing her into school, we tried just a few days a week, we tried leaving her at school and refusing to pick her up when she pissed or vomited and just sent her with spare clothes. This went on for 4 years. It didn't work. You have no idea how hard this has been. My original post literally says I will make her work whatever job she gets, which is a waitress job in this case. I am not coddling her. Update 1. Shout out to the person who'd me to tell me to kill myself and my family. I would like everyone to know that I read almost every single comment, even if I didn't reply to all of them. Also, to clarify, when I said a service animal, I was told that we would be able to get one to alert my daughter of panic attacks and help calm her down. However, after now speaking to other resources, we were explained that what the therapist was talking about was an ESA, editor's note, emotional support animal. Apologies for any confusion, this is new to me. And yes, where we live in America, psychologists can prescribe simple anxiety meds. And also yes, I obviously took away my daughter's phone and laptop after this. She's only allowed what she needs to complete her studies. On to the update, there was also a lot of helpful advice and support, so I do feel like I owe you guys an update. My and my husband have been fighting for weeks now on how to handle this. We did end up taking her to a psychiatrist and she was diagnosed severe social anxiety, as before, and also bipolar. We were told that the reason she wasn't diagnosed earlier is because she was far too young, and this is something that most likely only became visible very recently as she just hit puberty. So no, my daughter is not a sociopath, sorry to disappoint. And yes, we were told to continue homeschooling as it's too late to put her in a school where everyone has already developed their own friendship groups, etc., etc. I once again had to leave to care for my sick mother, which left my daughter with my husband. Apparently while I was gone, my husband thought it was a genius idea to turn up to Syl's house and ask for my daughter to see the dog under supervision. My Syl didn't agree but was coerced by my husband. This is what I'm assuming, because despite what my husband says, I don't believe she would have been on board with this. My daughter started crying and apologizing, claiming she felt so sad seeing the broken senior pup, too scared to come close to her. My husband has since decided that in light of this, my daughter deserves her ESA. I completely disagree with this stance and believe that she needs more support, therapy, and a large range of resources not limited to an animal. Even if my daughter is genuinely sorry, this isn't a mistake that can be easily forgiven in a month. I still think we should be pushing her to continue a part-time job, something she's been beginning to do. She's been sent home from the restaurant a few times already for panic attacks and has even complained to vomiting during her breaks. I told her she's welcome to search for other jobs she might find easier, which she has started to do, although it's been almost 3 weeks of working and I have asked her to do this a minimum of 2 months before quitting and finding something else. She's also not allowed to quit unless she comes to me with a different plan to pay the money back. My husband told me he has started the application process for an ESA. ETA, by application I mean he has contacted the local shelters and started filling out their application process. I was very angry and asked him to stop, but he argued that he thinks he should take over her care from now and quit his job while I worked instead. I disagreed because I'm the one who has been handling it for 6 years, but apparently I don't truly understand just how sorry she is now. In light of this, I contacted my Syl and told her that I think it would be best she file a police report. I do want this on record because, as many of you said, they won't give my daughter an animal if they find out about this. She agreed and did file a report, which was totally heartbreaking for me. It really hurts to have to do something like this to my daughter. My husband did find out and we've now been arguing for days. He's incredibly angry, but I'm attempting to stick with this. I'm not sure how the next few weeks will pan out, but I will say that I'm incredibly worried for the future. I have no idea what to do or how to get my husband to see my side. This is very concerning, but thank you for listening, Reddit. And for those of you who gave advice and support, I really appreciate it. Commenter: so you're posting multiple stories of you and your husband not seeing eye to eye and him going behind your back, but you don't want to hear the actual real steps that would be needed? And you want to not actually have real advice on the real scenario? Oop, no, I would not like advice on how to deal with my bulimia and how me and my husband are dealing with it. If you have advice on the actual topic at hand, that would be appreciated. My husband did not go behind my back in the previous post, that issue is separate, and may even be my fault. Oop, no actually. I was seeking advice on how to navigate sobriety during a difficult fight. If I wanted advice on my husband, I would have posted on the relevant subreddit, but I truly did just want some simple advice on dealing with bulimia during difficult days. Now on to second story. Spent my entire childhood living in an RV, homeschooled and friendless, and now I'm desperate to escape and build a normal life. My parents decided when I was only around 7 years old, far too young to get an opinion on anything, to pack us up and move into an RV to travel around the US. My dad works online and my mom makes content online. She's not huge by any means, but big enough that we get recognized sometimes, and big enough that I've had a camera shoved in my face for as long as I can remember. For my privacy's sake, I won't say anything else on that, and I'm using a throwaway account because I've gotten enough attention already and I'm sick of it. I sleep in a tiny bunk bed that I outgrew years ago, and the other bunk is the only space I have to put anything I own. I don't even have a room, just a curtain, and thank God I'm an only child, or else I would have to share the small space I have already. I was homeschooled for most of my education and then switched to online school at my own insistence for high school. I'm an 18-year-old girl. I don't have a single friend in person because the longest I've ever stayed anywhere is a month. I don't have a job and no way to get one because of not being stationary unless I find one online, which also mean I have no way to move out and get away from them. I've had conversations with them about all of this countless times, and they are so delusional and genuinely believe that a nomadic existence is the best why to live, so why would I never need anything else? I hate them for treating me like some pet they can just drag along in their plans rather than their child. I hate traveling, I don't like heat, I hate dealing with bugs, and I'm so sick of hiking. I can't wait for the day that I finally figure out a way to get away from them with their morning's hikes and cameras in my face. I've traveled around the US, yeah, but God forbid I want to have a normal life, go to college, or maybe even make some friends? That's asking too much. Commenter, I can't even imagine how lonely that must be. Do you have any way other family you could go stay with? Oop, not that I know of, unfortunately. Currently my plan is to try to figure out some making sort of income online and save up so I can get an apartment, and I'm talking with someone I've known online for a long time about maybe being roommates to help with costs for both of us. Commenter, going to college is perhaps the easiest way out, but maybe not the cheapest. However, certainly a good step forward, for multiple reasons. Oop, I'm definitely looking into it, but I'm worried about it because with the way I was homeschooled I was very behind academically and struggled a lot in high school. I was just happy I was able to do an actual online high school program rather than homeschooling. Commenter, ironically, if you were to start creating content about getting away from your hipster parents you'd probably gain a lot of attention. Oop, honestly I've considered it just for the purpose of spreading awareness, but it didn't seem smart to me for a few reasons. Firstly, it didn't seem like a long-term solution. I don't think the content would be all that interesting once my story is told. There isn't any other real content there. There is only so many time you can talk about the same thing without it getting repetitive and boring people. Plus I would have to be in a stable position enough to feel comfortable talking about it and have an out just in case things went sideways. But more importantly, I've already had my life plastered onto the internet from such a young age. I don't think it's worth giving up the one aspect of my life that hasn't been published publicly. Update 1. Hello, barely over a week ago I made a post talking about my very negative experience living in an RV with my parents for around 10 years now. Despite it being such a short time since I've posted it, a lot has changed for me since then. I don't know how many people here would be interested in an update on my situation, but I know quite a few people were very concerned and would probably appreciate an update, so here it is. Also, fair warning, this is a fairly lengthy post. I have a tendency to ramble, so there is sort of a TLDR at the end. I had a lot of people give me really helpful advice, resources, as well as even offers to try to help personally, some being questionable admittedly, but a majority being genuinely concerned, wanting to try to help, and I very much appreciate that. It was slightly overwhelming, to be honest, and I ended up not responding to a lot of people, so you'll all have to forgive me for that. But even if I didn't respond much, I've been doing research on a lot of the information people gave me. Something that stood out to me was people asking if I had any family I could stay with, to which I had to respond, not that I know of, because I don't have anyone on my dad's side of the family, and my mom strictly no contact with her family. I did not know if they were alive, if they cut her off, if she cut them off, or even any details about them, and my mom had never wanted to talk about it. What information I did have was my mom's maiden name, which is pretty uncommon, and where she was born, which in terms of trying to find family can actually get you surprisingly far, I've come to realize. I've always had a slight hatred for the internet because I never had any choice in my life being public knowledge, and I know that once something is out there, it's out there, but for the first time I'm actually really grateful for the internet. I was able to find some information on my mother's side of the family, and specifically was able to find my grandma's Facebook account, though it did take me some effort. After a lot of stressing on how to approach messaging her, if I even should, as well as potential outcomes, I messaged her explaining my mom's life, who I was, and my situation. I won't go into details onto why my grandma and my mom are no contact, because that is not my story to share, but my grandma was appalled that she has a granddaughter she didn't even know about, and even more so the way in which her daughter raised me. I found out I have an aunt and an uncle, both of which my grandma told them about me and my situation. I've been in pretty much constant contact with all of them since just learning about each other. All of them want to help me get out of this living situation with my parents, and luckily with me being 18 now, it's actually possible. Again, I don't feel entirely comfortable going into details, but I have arrangements to go stay with my aunt, who lives in a big city on the West Coast that had a lot of potential opportunities for me to start college or whatever I see fit, which I do plan on figuring out college, happy to announce. My uncle has kids, but my aunt lives on her own and has a spare bedroom which she has no problem letting me stay in for as long as necessary. I have a train ticket scheduled and purchased by my aunt and enough money to get to the station. I'm talking with my family, still feels weird to type, currently, and trying to plan out the details like how or if I'm going to tell my parents. My mom doesn't know any information on where any of her family lives, so even if I were to tell my parents who I'm going to live with, they wouldn't know where I was specifically. Someone pointed out that if I did leave without telling them, I should leave a note or some form of proof that I left willingly, so if I do opt out of a conversation, I'm planning on either leaving a note or filming a video explaining my plans and why I'm leaving, which would be kinda of ironic, wouldn't it? Regarding my mom filming, I've been very quiet around my parents and just refusing to talk when the camera is on, but neither one of them has mentioned it yet so far, luckily. Also, speaking of my mom's content, I would like to very much emphasize something quickly. Almost everyone was genuinely trying to help, but I had a few people replying trying to guess who I was. Luckily, the few I saw were basically torn to shreds and ended up deleting their comments. I also had a few people who messaged me privately trying to make a guess at who I am, which at least that's not public, I guess. Although I can understand being curious, I posted anonymously with very little personal information for a reason. As I stated in my previous post, I have gotten enough attention and I'm very much sick of it. I would very much appreciate it if you guys can respect that. Even if you think you might know who I am, please don't make public guesses and understand that I don't want this to be even more public information tied to my name. Very long story short, I have set plans to leave as well as a safe place to go with my aunt once I do, and very much appreciate so people for being so willing to help. If you had told me not even 2 weeks ago that not only do I have a plan to move away from my parents but contact with family members I didn't even know existed, I don't think I would have believed it.